The Gundam franchise has produced hundreds of mobile suits across dozens of timelines, and some of them are so absurdly powerful they make nuclear weapons look like party poppers. Today I'm breaking down the most powerful Gundam suits ever created, explaining exactly what makes each one terrifying, starting with the one that kicked everything off, RX-78-2 Gundam. This is the atom of all Gundam, the original, and by modern standards, its specs look almost quaint. A 1,380 kilowatt reactor, beam rifle technology, and Gundarium alloy armor. That's it. That's the list. But here's the thing, in Universal Century 079, this machine made every single Zeon mobile suit obsolete overnight. That beam rifle could punch through Zaku 2 armor at over 2,000 meters. Zeon pilots were essentially showing up to a gunfight with a wet newspaper. Then you add Amuro Ray, a reluctant teenager with zero combat training who somehow became a fully awakened new type with precognitive combat awareness. He could sense attacks before they happened, which is, not ideal if you're the one attacking him. By the Battle of Abawa Q, Amuro and the RX-78-2 had become so dominant they helped break Zeon's final defensive line and effectively end the one-year war. That legacy proves something the entire franchise would build on. Pilot synergy matters more than raw specs. The RX-78-2 is the foundation. Every suit after it exists because this one proved what was possible. But if you think a 1,380 kilowatt reactor sounds scary, wait until you see what happens when you give a Gundam a system that literally drives its pilots insane. Wing Gundam Zero. Most mobile suits make you a better pilot. Wing Zero makes you a perfect one. There's a difference, and it's not a good one. The Zero system is an AI combat prediction engine that processes tactical data faster than any human brain can operate, feeding the pilot optimal solutions in real time. Every movement, every counter, every firing angle, calculated and delivered before the enemy even commits to an attack. It effectively turns whoever's sitting in the cockpit into a flawless killing machine through forced man-machine symbiosis. You don't learn to fight better, the system fights through you. Here's the thing, Hiro Yui piloted this suit and achieved combat effectiveness that bordered on precognition. He engaged and destroyed multiple enemy units simultaneously during the series' final battle with precision so clean it reshaped the entire political landscape of the After Colony universe. One pilot, one suit, one battle, and the whole power structure changes. But here's where it gets dark. The Zero system eats your mind while it's saving your life. Hiro suffered severe psychological degradation from using it. Episodes of emotional dissociation, violent impulses that had nothing to do with the battlefield, his core personality slowly being hollowed out by the very thing making him unstoppable. And all of this is packed into a frame weighing 8.0 metric tons empty, giving it a power to weight ratio that's genuinely absurd for what it can do. So yeah, god tier combat performance, but the price is your sanity, which is, not ideal. But if you think a system that predicts the future is terrifying, wait until you see the suit that was built to fight it. Gundam, Epyon, everyone talks about the Zero system like it's the pinnacle of mobile suit combat technology. And look, it's impressive. But Gundam Epyon looked at all that calculated AI prediction and said, no thanks, I'd rather just feel it. Here's the thing, the Epyon system is the philosophical opposite of Zero. Instead of running combat data through an artificial intelligence framework to generate optimal tactical solutions, Epyon reads the pilot's neurological input directly. Raw combat instinct translated into machine response with zero computational delay. No algorithm deciding what you should do next. Just you, your gut, and a giant robot that moves exactly when your brain fires. And the pilot who made this system sing was Zex Marquise, an aristocratic warrior who discovered something terrifying about himself through Epyon. He possessed near precognitive instinctive combat awareness. The machine didn't teach him that, it revealed it. Epyon amplified his existing warrior philosophy into something almost spiritual, a feedback loop of martial honor and mechanical fury where the suit rewarded pure fighting spirit with increasingly devastating performance. But here's where it gets interesting. Epyon held its own against Wing Zero in direct combat, brain versus gut, calculated perfection versus primal instinct, and it didn't just survive those encounters. It fought Wing Zero while simultaneously contending with multiple Federation mobile suits, proving that instinct-based combat methodology could match or exceed AI-optimized prediction and sustained engagement. The fan debate over which system is actually superior remains completely unresolved, which is, not ideal for anyone trying to settle an argument. But if you think a machine powered by fighting spirit is wild, wait until you see what happens when a Gundam runs entirely entirely on screaming and punching. God Gundam. Okay, we need to talk about the mobile suit that runs on screaming. Everything up to this point has operated on some version of logic. Advanced AI, neural feedback systems, tactical prediction algorithms. God Gundam throws all of that in the trash. This machine's power source is, and I cannot stress this enough, how angry its pilot is. Domon Kashu doesn't calculate optimal attack vectors. He just punches really hard, and the universe rearranges itself to accommodate. Here's the thing, God Gundam's hyper mode is a temporary transformation that pushes every specification past its theoretical maximum. Strength, speed, energy output, all of it spikes beyond what the engineering should physically allow. And the trigger isn't a button or a voice command. It's Doman getting sufficiently fired up. His emotional state directly fuels the machine's power output. The madder he gets, the harder reality has to cope. Then there's the God Finger, which channels an absurd concentration of energy directly through the suit's hand in ways that border on warping matter itself, which is, not ideal for anyone standing nearby, but the real moment that breaks this suit's power ceiling happened during the final battle against the Devil Gundam. Doman achieved perfect hypermode synchronization and unleashed the Sekiha Tenkyoken, a finishing technique that appeared to reorganize space around the target, not damage it, not destroy it, reorganize the space it occupied. The golden light was surging, reality was bending, and somewhere a physicist was crying. I don't know what to tell you. The man punched a hole in the laws of thermodynamics. But if you think raw emotion is the wildest power source a Gundam can run on, wait until you see what happens when a pilot's consciousness starts bleeding directly into the machine itself. Zeta Gundam. Most people remember the Zeta for its transformation gimmick, and fair enough. The Waverider system was the first time a Gundam could completely reconfigure itself mid-combat, shifting between mobile suit and mobile armor modes depending on what the situation demanded. One second you're trading beam saber strikes, the next you fold it into an atmospheric re-entry capable fighter jet screaming across the battlefield at speeds no standard mobile suit could touch. A single platform that could match the tactical situation instead of being locked into one role. But here's the thing, the transformation isn't what makes the Zeta terrifying. Camille Badan is. When Camille first climbs into the cockpit, he's an angry teenager with zero combat discipline and a chip on his shoulder roughly the size of a space colony. By the end of the series, he's something else entirely. His new type abilities didn't just develop alongside the Zeta, they developed because of it. The machine's Psycommu systems and Camilla's awakening fed into each other like a loop, the pilot's growth literally raising the suit's performance ceiling, which in turn pushed the pilot further. The Zeta got stronger because Camilla got stronger, and Camilla got stronger because the Zeta led him. And then came the final battle, where that loop hit its breaking point. Camille achieved synchronization so complete that his consciousness reached beyond the Zeta's mechanical systems entirely. He wasn't just piloting the suit anymore, he was manifesting through it. The maneuvers he pulled existed somewhere between what engineering allows and what sheer psychic willpower demands. It's the moment Universal Century Gundam stopped pretending that better armor and bigger guns were the endgame. Consciousness matters more than engineering, and if you think the Zeta only hinted at that idea, wait until you see what happens when they build an entire suit around it. Gundam Exia, every military on Earth had their best machines lined up, their best pilots strapped in, their defense budgets justified, and then one suit showed up and made all of it worthless in about 4 minutes. The Gundam Exia wasn't just a new mobile suit, it was the end of an era disguised as the beginning of one. The core of what made it so devastating was the GN drive, a quantum particle reactor with zero connection to Minovsky particle technology. Completely different science, completely different rules. GN particles could cut through conventional mobile suit armor like it wasn't even there, which meant every defensive system on the planet, every shield, every plating upgrade, every countermeasure some engineer spent years perfecting, all of it became decoration overnight. Setsuna's first combat intervention is the moment that really sells it. He carved through a numerically massive conventional force while taking almost no damage. Picture being a military commander watching that footage. Your entire fleet just got dismantled by one guy in one machine. That's not a bad day at the office. That's a career-ending existential crisis. But here's where it gets genuinely unsettling. Setsuna F. Seiei started as a child soldier. No childhood, no normalcy, just violence from the jump, and through prolonged GN particle exposure, something started changing in him. Not just psychologically, but at what appeared to be a cellular level. His perceptual abilities began resembling new type awakening, except he wasn't in a universe that had new types. The particles were turning him into something post-human, and nobody fully understood what that meant. Exia didn't just establish a new power ceiling, it shattered the old one so completely that every faction on Earth had to start from scratch. But if you think rewriting one planet's military doctrine is impressive, wait until you see what the Strike Freedom did to an entire war. Strike Freedom Gundam. Every other mobile suit on the battlefield has to worry about running out of power. Strike Freedom doesn't even know what that means. Here's the thing, in the cosmic era, Endjammers exist specifically to shut down nuclear reactors. It's a global countermeasure that forces every mobile suit to operate on limited battery power, rationing every beam shot and thruster burst like it's their last meal. The Strike Freedom carries an Endjammer canceller, which means it runs a full nuclear reactor while everyone else is sipping energy through a straw. Unlimited power for beam weapons, unlimited power for thrusters, unlimited power for everything, all the time, forever, which is, you know, not ideal if you're fighting against it, but the suit alone isn't what makes this terrifying. Kira Yamato's seed ability grants him temporary spikes in reaction time and cognitive processing that turn an already dominant machine into something exponentially worse. You're not just fighting a mobile suit with infinite energy, you're fighting a mobile suit with infinite energy being piloted by a guy whose brain temporarily runs at twice the speed of yours. Enhanced human plus enhanced machine doesn't equal double the threat. It equals a multiplicative combat effect where the pilot can actually use every system the suit offers simultaneously, and he does exactly that. During the series' climactic battle, Kira operated multiple weapon systems in perfect coordination while engaging numerous opponents at once. Beam rifles, sabers, Dragoon remote weapons, creating multiple combat presences across the battlefield, all orchestrated by one pilot. At 80 metric tons, the Strike Freedom is a flying arsenal that sustained beam weapon discharge and maneuvering that appeared to exceed its own documented reactor capacity. The Meteor remote weapons platform let Kira essentially be in several places at once, which is the kind of tactical advantage that makes fair fights impossible. But if Strike Freedom dominates through technological superiority and limitless energy, the next suit on our list takes the complete opposite approach. Gundam Barbatos Lupus Rex Strike Freedom is a machine of precision, clean lines, calculated dominance, a pilot who fights like a surgeon. Barbatos Lupus Rex is the exact opposite. This is a machine that eats its pilot alive. The twin Ahab reactors powering this thing give it output that puts most mobile suits to shame. Gundam frames were built during the Calamity War to fight unmanned weapons that were wiping out humanity, and they were engineered accordingly. Massive power, devastating performance, zero regard for what that does to the person sitting inside, and the nano-laminate armor can shrug off beam weapons that would vaporize conventional suits. You can blast this thing with energy fire all day and it just keeps coming, which is, you know, not ideal if you're the one shooting at it, but none of that is what makes Barbatos terrifying. Mikazuki August achieved the most disturbing pilot machine synergy in the entire Gundam franchise. The Alaya Vijnana system implanted directly into his spine let him interface with Barbatos at a neural level, and by the end of Iron-Blooded Orphans, that connection had destroyed his body. He lost his right eye, he lost his right arm, he could only see and move normally while plugged into the suit. The machine didn't merge with him, it just made itself the only place he could still function. That's not a power fantasy, that's body horror wearing 18 meters of metal. In the final battle, Barbatos Lupus Rex fought multiple superior opponents under overwhelming firepower, and it kept advancing. Mikazuki pushed the Alaya Vijnana connection so far past its limits that his body was essentially a life support system for combat reflexes. Just a broken pilot inside a battered frame, dragging itself forward through gunfire to crush whatever was in front of it. Every other Gundam on this list has a pilot. Barbatos Lupus Rex has a host. But if a machine that devours its pilot disturbs you, wait until you see one that responds to pure psychic willpower. New Gundam. Most mobile suits are built by engineers. The New Gundam was built built by its pilot. Amuro Ray personally directed the design of the RX-93, and that distinction matters more than any spec sheet ever could. This wasn't a military contract handed down from some Federation committee. This was a machine constructed around one man's mind, optimized for his specific psychic wavelength, tuned to amplify decades of accumulated new type ability. Every system, every weapon, every response curve was calibrated to Amuro and Amuro alone. And by this point, Amuro wasn't the scared teenager from the 1-year war anymore. He'd spent years refining his new type perception into something terrifying. The kid who stumbled into the RX-78-2 had become arguably the most dangerous pilot in the Universal Century, and the new Gundam gave him a suit that could actually keep up. Here's where it gets interesting. The psychoframe system embedded in the new Gundam structure implied something that Gundam engineering had been dancing around for years, that conscious intention could directly influence the mobile suit's physical performance, not through button presses or control sticks. Through willpower, pilot determination translating into mechanical output through a mechanism that frankly broke every established rule of physics the Universal Century had. The funnels alone proved it. Those remote weapons operated through psychic commands at distances that exceeded electromagnetic transmission range, which is, you know, not how signals work, but the real proof came during the final battle against Char's Sazabi. What started as a mobile suit duel between two legendary rivals became something else entirely. Amuro achieved direct consciousness contact with Char. The beam sabers and funnels became secondary to a conflict happening purely in the realm of will and perception. Two men who'd been trying to kill each other for decades, and the fight that finally settled it wasn't even physical. This is where Gundam stops pretending the machines are the real weapons. The new Gundam didn't win because it had better specs. It won because Amuro's mind was stronger, but if the new Gundam hinted that consciousness could reshape combat, the next suit on this list took that idea and shattered every limit it had. Unicorn Gundam. This is where the power scale breaks. Not bends, breaks. Every Gundam we've talked about so far operates within some kind of framework. Advanced technology, experimental reactors, psychic amplification. The Unicorn Gundam looks at all of that and says that's cute before casually rewriting the laws of physics with the pilot's feelings. The RX-0 Unicorn is built around a full psycho frame, meaning the entire internal skeleton is laced with technology that responds to human consciousness. Not just the cockpit, not just a helmet interface. Every structural component is a receiver for the pilot's mind. And here's where it gets weird. The pilot isn't some hardened new type ace with decades of combat experience. It's Banagher Lynx, a civilian teenager, zero military training, zero combat background. He's basically a college kid who stumbles into the cockpit and proceeds to achieve deeper machine integration than pilots who've been fighting wars their entire lives. His new type abilities didn't emerge through battle awareness like Amuro's. They manifested through empathy, through emotional connection, which sounds soft until you realize what it actually produced. When the Unicorn enters destroy mode, the armor literally splits apart, revealing the glowing psycho frame underneath like the suit is shedding its skin. It's one of the most iconic transformations in the entire franchise, and it's not just cosmetic. The suit's operational parameters change. Things that should be mechanically impossible suddenly aren't, because Banagher's consciousness is actively influencing how reality behaves around the machine. But the real nightmare is the climactic battle with the Sinanju Stein. On the surface, two mobile suits fighting, beam sabers clashing, thrusters firing, the usual. But underneath, a consciousness level war was happening. Banagher's mind and his opponents were locked in a psychic conflict that the physical combat was merely reflecting. At the peak, the Unicorn manifested a reality warping effect that fundamentally altered the battlefield itself, not damaged it, altered it. A civilian kid with no training, piloting a suit that turns willpower into physics, which is, you know, not ideal for anyone fighting against him. But even the Unicorn has a ceiling, and the next suit on this list doesn't just break through that ceiling, it erases the entire building. Turn a Gundam. Every suit on this list so far has been designed to win wars. Turn A wasn't designed to win anything. It was designed to end everything. The System 99 weighs 35.2 metric tons. That's lighter than the Strike Freedom, lighter than the new Gundam, and it could erase both of them from existence without firing a single conventional weapon, which is, you know, not ideal ideal. Here's the thing, Turn A doesn't carry a super weapon in the traditional sense. It carries the Moonlight Butterfly, a nanomachine dispersal system that restructures matter at the molecular level across continental distances. It doesn't blow up cities. It converts advanced technology into sand. Every circuit board, every reactor, every piece of infrastructure more complex than a wooden wheel, gone. An entire civilization's worth of progress, quietly dissolved like it never happened. And that's not a theoretical capability. The Turn A activated the Moonlight Butterfly and reset technological civilization across an entire planet. Not a city, not a country. The planet. Imagine waking up one morning and every car, every phone, every power grid on Earth has been turned into dust. That's Tuesday for this thing, but here's where it gets genuinely terrifying. The evidence suggests it's done this before, multiple times, across multiple civilization cycles. The Turn A isn't a weapon of war, it's a reset button built into the fabric of civilization itself, and somebody keeps pressing it. Then there's Lauren Seahack. He's not a soldier, he's a gentle pacifist who stumbled into an inheritance spanning thousands of years and multiple collapsed civilizations. Like discovering your family has been holding the kill switch for human progress since before recorded history, and they handed it to the nicest guy alive. Here you go, Lauren, don't press that button. Actually, you might have to press that button. The poetic horror of Turn A is that it reframes every other Gundam on this list as temporary. Every war, every battle, every technological arms race exists only because the Turn A hasn't been activated yet. It doesn't compete on the power scale. It is the power scale. But if a machine that erases civilization sounds like the ceiling, wait until you meet the suit that transcends reality altogether. Quan, every suit on this list has been building toward this. Every GN drive, every innovation system, every moment where a pilot touched something bigger, all of it was prologue. The 00 Quint is the final sentence. The GN drive system on this thing doesn't just generate particles, it produces them at a level that enables quantum brainwaves, a direct consciousness to consciousness communication field. The pilot isn't sending commands to a machine, he's projecting his thoughts, his empathy outward across space itself. The 00 Conti was designed for one purpose, to initiate dialogue with the ELS, an alien species that communicates exclusively through quantum level contact, not through weapons, through pure, unfiltered consciousness, bridging the gap between two species with zero framework for understanding each other, which is, you know, not ideal if you're the guy whose brain has to do the bridging, but the technology is only half the story. The other half is Setsuna F. Sayai. Setsuna started this franchise as a child soldier in the Exia. By the time he reached the Azero Khand, he had become a true innovator, a human who evolved the capacity for quantum brainwave communication. The merger between his consciousness and the 00 Cantee's systems was so complete that calling him a pilot stopped making sense. He channeled his entire being through it. His understanding became its function. Its quantum field became his voice. The line between man and machine didn't blur. It evaporated. And then the 00 Kant stopped being a weapon entirely. Setsuna didn't defeat the ELS through firepower. He used the quantum system to achieve mutual understanding with an alien consciousness that had been consuming everything it touched. The suit didn't win a fight. It dissolved the need for one. Not by destroying the enemy, but by understanding them so completely that hostility lost its meaning. That's not a mobile suit anymore. That's an instrument of species-wide evolution. The entire Gundam franchise has been asking one question. What happens when the machine and the pilot become one? The 00 Kanto is the answer. And the answer is that war becomes obsolete. Not because humanity ran out of weapons, but because one man and one machine transcended the need for them entirely. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.